Salutations from Wizard Studios. I am the Wizard. We have another news episode coming to you. Before we get into it, I want to remind everybody to please subscribe to the channel for more MMA content. Really helps us out when you do. Also, please give this video a thumbs up. Again, really helps us out when you do, guys. Now, let's get right into it. First up, the UFC is targeting May 9th for their return. Obviously, Dana White feels very confident that he will be able to return by then. Now, he is saying that there are 3 states willing to hold the event, so that does help out a lot. Now, with that, he is also saying that the Apex facility is going to be the location for the next fight. Now, again, it's going to be hard to do that, because from what I understand now, Nevada is not allowing it. Now, I don't think Dana White would say that if he was not confident and if he didn't know something that we obviously do not know. So, again, Dana White being very confident, I think that he's probably talked to, the Nevada officials, obviously, and they're going to allow it. But there are no reports that I have seen saying that they are going to go ahead and allow this to happen on May 9th. Now, obviously Dana White probably knows something that we all do not know. We'll see what happens. So we did get the UFC 250 fight card, and it is a doozy. So let's get right into that. Now, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje is set to headline the event. Now, this is going to be obviously for the interim title that did not happen at UFC 249. I really think this is going to be a great fight. I believe that, both of these guys have the ability to win at any moment during the fight. Now, right now, I am favoring Justin Gaethje because of his power advantage. And Tony Ferguson does get hit. We have to remember that. I just believe that Justin Gaethje probably has just about the most power in that division. I mean, that guy is a banger. When he hits people, they go out. So I really think that Justin Gaethje has the advantage at this point in time. I know that Tony Ferguson has a million different ways he can win. And of course, that is very valuable. But we have to remember, he does get hit, he leaves his chin open, and Justin Gaethje will capitalize on that, in my opinion. Next up, we have Henry Cejudo versus Dominick Cruz. Now, this is a really, really good fight. I believe that Henry Cejudo is the best bantamweight in the world right now. But Dominick Cruz, I believe, is the tougher challenge for Henry Cejudo rather than Jose Aldo. I believe that Dominick Cruz has the best movement in that division. I think that is going to be very hard for Henry Cejudo to figure out. Now, every time that I doubt Henry Cejudo, he goes in there and wins. So I am not doubting him. I'm just saying that Dominick Cruz is one of the toughest puzzles to figure out. So when you look at this, I really believe that Dominick Cruz has the advantage. We always hear about ring rust, ring rust, ring rust. I have never seen it affect Dominick Cruz. That dude is a baller. He goes in there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to win. So I really think that Dominick Cruz has the advantage in this fight. I mean, slightly. I think that, 55% Dominick Cruz, 45 Cejudo. That's just the way I see it right now. But Henry Cejudo has the best wrestling pedigree that you can have. We have to remember that. And that is the ultimate X factor. It's just that Dominick Cruz is very, very hard to get your hands on that dude. He has the best movement. Next up, we have Amanda Nunez versus Felicia Spencer. Now, this is a good fight. I really think that Amanda Nunez has the biggest, challenge in front of her, being that Felicia Spencer can take a punch. I mean, she ate all of Cyborg's punches, okay, and kept coming forward. Now, with that being said, I really think that Amanda Nunez is going to dominate this fight. I just think that Felicia Spencer has not had enough You know, I mean, she's only been in the UFC for a few fights. Amanda Nunez has been wrecking people for years. So the thing that I see where Felicia could benefit is if she goes in there, eats Amanda's punches, wears her out, leans on her, and then eventually gets the fight to the ground where that is obviously her wheelhouse. I think that that is the best game plan, even though, you know, when you think about it, when is taking punishment a good game plan? I mean, but Amanda's gonna land shots, and so Felicia has got to be able to take that punishment. Obviously, she could with Cyborg. Now, I don't think that, the Cyborg versus Nunez fight was a good showing for Cyborg, but Cyborg is the best 145-pounder ever, okay? Let's just not get that mistaken. Now, Felicia Spencer should be able to, according to MMA math, which is never right, be able to eat some of Amanda Nunez's punches and then maybe get her hands on her? That's the big X factor. Can Felicia Spencer get her hands on Amanda Nunez to take her down? And then worry about Amanda Nunez's black belt. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Next up, we have Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. This is the battle of the bangers, okay? Who can eat the other's punch to land their own? Now, Jairzinho has an awesome kickboxing pedigree, okay? But Francis Ngannou has the ultimate X factor in his power. Now, Jairzinho was able to eat Alistair Overeem's punches. You know, Alistair Overeem, the Reem, has great power. But he does not have Francis Ngannou power. So the question is, can Jairzinho get out of that first round and then put it on Francis? I really cannot wait to see that. I think this is the fight where you have just two guys. This is the fight everybody wants. This is the fight that Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou should have been, right? We're hoping that it turns out that way. I just do not see how they're going to stand there and look at each other. I believe that Jairzinho, he is a counter striker for the most part, but he's going to want to go in there and put on a performance, right? He wants to put on a performance so that he can get the next title shot after DC and Stipe. So I really believe that he is going to try. It's just a really dangerous game to try to do the counter-striking thing with Ngannou because, obviously, the power. So I don't know if Jairzinho is going to look to capitalize on his movement for a heavyweight. He has good movement for a heavyweight. I think he is going to try to take it to Ngannou. That is what I believe. And try to step on that gas pedal and wear Ngannou out. That's the way I see it. See if it happens that way. Next up, we have Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar. Now, this is a fight right here that I believe is going to end up being fight of the night, okay? Jeremy Stephens is always in a war. Calvin Kattar is always looking to throw hands. What is that going to end up being like? A battle. An absolute battle. I don't know who's going to win it. Calvin Kattar, I believe, has the better cardio. But Jeremy Stephens carries his power even when he's tired. So, I mean, is Calvin Kattar still going to rush in? And, is he going to be able to take those punches from Jeremy Stephens? That is what is left to be seen. I think that Jeremy Stephens will be able to put Calvin out. I believe that. But Calvin Kattar, he has some of the best boxing. What is Jeremy Stephens known for? Heavy hands and heavy leg kicks. My kind of fighter. But I don't know if he's going to be able to stay in there with the boxing of Calvin Kattar. That is yet to be seen. I think that Calvin Kattar's boxing is severely underrated. I believe that dude can fight for a title any given day. I really believe that. I think Calvin Kattar is that good. So I believe that Calvin Kattar's cardio will end up being the X factor. I know this is only a 3-round fight, but I expect him to step on the pedal. I really do. I think he's going to come in there and try to wear Jeremy Stephens out, try to get him moving slower, even though Jeremy carries the power. If he's moving slower, that is where Calvin Kattar can obviously capitalize. And I believe that Calvin Kattar has great power, not Jeremy Stephens' power, but great power. And I believe that Jeremy Stephens is able to get hit, the way I see it. So Donald Cerrone versus Anthony Pettis. Now this is a rematch. Obviously Pettis put Cerrone out with a body shot the last time. But I believe that Cerrone is really going to go in there and try to put on a great performance, because obviously his last performance was not good. Probably the worst of his career. So when you look at it, Donald Cerrone versus Anthony Pettis, these are two guys right here that have been on a losing skid. I mean, I know that Anthony Pettis had a win versus Wonder Boy, but I really believe, you know, he's been on a bad slide. I love Anthony Pettis, but he's been on a bad slide. Now, this is going to be at welterweight, so both of them should have great cardio. Now, Anthony Pettis, obviously, you know, even being at welterweight, isn't known for his cardio. We'll have to see, like, how that affects him. I don't know if carrying the extra weight is going to, you know, put a strain on him. But I really believe that Donald Cerrone is going to go in here and just try to take his head off. Even if it's on the ground, he is going to try to strangle him. This guy wants to put on a good showing. I mean, he's just been criticized, you know, criticized for everything lately. And I think that some of it's warranted, but most of it's not. And I think that Donald Cerrone is obviously a fan favorite. I think that he is going to try to get the crowd, well, not the crowd, but get the fans behind him. And I think that he's going to try to go in there and finish Anthony Pettis as quickly as possible. Obviously, he's not good in the first round. So after, you know, the first 3 minutes or so go by, look for Donald Cerrone to take out Anthony Pettis if he can get past the first 3 minutes. Now, Greg Hardy versus Jurgen de Castro. Now, obviously, every time Greg Hardy fights, there's going to be some commotion. But I think that this guy is actually a good fighter. We saw that in his last fight. Now, even though he lost. But Greg Hardy, I think that he's going to come in here, and I think he's going to take this guy's head off in the first round. I really believe that Greg Hardy can be a really good heavyweight MMA fighter. I know that nobody wants him to be whatever for all of his previous whatever, you know, but the guy is a good fighter. He has awesome power, unbelievable power. Whenever he lands clean, 99% of the time, the guy goes down, okay? So Greg Hardy is a good heavyweight just from that alone, okay? That can win him 60% of his heavyweight fights. Now, the question is Greg Hardy going to go in there and, you know, use an inhaler or whatever, get out of the fight mind and lose? That's yet to be seen, because Greg Hardy is obviously still very new to MMA. So we got to give the guy a little bit of a break. I really believe that. Now, I believe that this guy is not good enough to beat Greg Hardy. Jurgen de Castro, I mean, obviously anybody can lose on any given night. But I think that Greg Hardy is going to be able to go in there and knock him out in the first round. I really believe that. And until Greg Hardy gets back to that upper echelon of talent, I think he'll knock out majority of the guys he fights. So next up we have Alexei Oleinik versus Fabricio Verdum, some of the best submission artists in the heavyweight division. I really believe that Alexei Oleinik can hang with Fabricio on the ground. I strongly believe he can. Now, that's not saying that he cannot get submitted. I just believe it'll be more difficult to submit him. The guy has crazy submissions, and I really want to see what his submission defense is going to be like against a guy like Fabricio Verdun. So this is going to be a good test for Alexei Oleinik to see if he can beat the best, some people believe the best heavyweight period of all time, but obviously between him and probably Frank Mir, the two best heavyweight submission artists ever. So I think that Fabricio has a fight on his hands. If he's smart, he'll just knock him out, right? Because Fabricio has gotten great stand-up over the years. You know, like his stand-up has improved so much. Maybe not great, but very good stand-up. So we'll look for Fabricio to come out there and maybe just knock him out. But I think that he is going to test Alexei Oleinik on the ground as just, I believe that that's the kind of guy Fabricio is. He wants to take the fight where, you know, the fans want to see it go. And that's on the ground because these guys are some of the best heavyweight submission artists in the game today. Next up, we have Carla Esparza versus Michelle Waterson. Now, I think that this is going to be a great fight. I believe that Carla Esparza is going to come in there and try to put the pressure on Michelle. Now, Michelle's going to try to keep the distance, obviously, but Carla is going to try to put her down and pound on her. And I really want to see if she's able to get Michelle to the ground, because Michelle is very good at keeping the distance. Now, I don't know if she'll be able to stop the bulldog in Carla Esparza, because Carla just comes forward and throws punches until she gets a hold of you and takes you down. Now, right now, I'm favoring Carla Esparza because I believe her wrestling is going to be the X factor in this fight. But Michelle Waterson is very tricky off of her back, so Carla's going to have to be aware and not get submitted. But right now, I'm leaning more towards Carla Esparza. We'll see what happens. Next up, we have Ronaldo Souza versus Uriah Hall. I believe that Jacare coming back down is probably the right move. I know he's old. I know that he's been fighting forever. I know he's been competing forever. But if Jacare gets a hold of Uriah Hall, he is going to submit him. Period, point blank, the end. Now, Uriah Hall can take Jacare's head off. We have to remember that. Jacare has got great power, okay? Great power. But Uriah Hall has some of the most trickiest stand-up. I mean, the guy is a wizard on the feet, okay? He can do whatever he wants on the feet. The question is, where is Uriah's head going to be? Because Uriah, you know, sometimes is not always mentally prepared, or, you know, the nerves get to him. He said that. But Jacare is a killer. He is a strangler. I believe that Jacare has the power advantage. I believe that Jacare has the submission advantage. I believe that Jacare has fought the tougher competition, and I just right now feel that Jacare is a little too much for Uriah Hall. But that's not to say that Uriah Hall cannot go in there and take Jacare out, because he can, and he has all the ability to. Now, we'll see what happens. After that, we have Vicente Luque versus Nico Price. Now, Vicente Luque is a killer. Nico Price is an animal. This is gonna be a war. I don't see how this can't be a war. Now, right now, I believe that Nico Price is one of the most awkward fighters out there. He can knock you out from anywhere. We've seen that in a lot of his fights. Look at the last one, for crying out loud, with that up kick. Now, Nico Price, I think that if he can beat Vicente Luque, I really believe that he is going to launch himself into that top 10 category. Vicente Luque, that dude is probably one of the most underrated fighters on the UFC roster. I really believe that guy, he just goes out there no matter what and comes forward. That's just the kind of fighter he is. Nico Price is the exact same way, and he has no fear no matter what position he is in. I mean, the guy is an animal. I mean, I really believe that this and the Jeremy Stephens, Calvin Kattar, one of these two are going to be fight of the nights. Now, right now, I'm leaning more towards the Jeremy Stephens fight, but Vicente Luque, I think that I just believe that he's just a little bit better everywhere. I mean, that's just what I believe, but that's not to say that Nico Price can't knock him out anywhere, because he can. Nico Price looks to finish the fight from the opening bell. Right now, leaning a little bit towards Vicente Luque. Last but not least, we have Bryce Mitchell coming in here, and he's going to come in here and try to make a name for himself like he does every time the guy comes in screaming, right? Bryce Mitchell, I believe Bryce Mitchell is, the guy is just different, right? I mean, he's just a country boy from Arkansas, all right? So look for him to come in here and finish this fight and put on a showing. Last but not least, we have Charles Rosa versus Bryce Mitchell. All right, Bryce Mitchell is slowly making a great name for himself, all right? The guy wants his camouflage shorts. Hopefully we may see those in this fight. I doubt it. But look for him to come in here, and he has great submission game. I believe that Bryce Mitchell is the future, all right? I really do. I think that Bryce Mitchell has the opportunity to be the future of his division. Now, that's not to say that he can't lose this fight, but I believe Bryce Mitchell is a little bit better than Charles Rosa. I mean, I believe that Bryce Mitchell is on a upward trajectory to the top, and he's wanting to get there in a hurry. I look for him to come in here and try to finish this fight in the first round, and I think Bryce Mitchell gets it done in the first round via submission. Just the way I see it. All right, I want to remind everybody to please give this video the thumbs up. It really helps out the channel when you do. Also, subscribe for more MMA content, and we will see you in the next video.